Sometimes the biggest secrets we keep are the ones that save us from being taken advantage of. But what happens when that secret unfolds in the most unexpected way, and the people closest to you reveal their true colors? This is the story of how I hid something precious. And how it nearly slipped into the hands of someone who didn't deserve it. Before we dive in, don't forget to like this video, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell icon so you never miss a story, and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. My name is Josephine, and I never thought my life would twist into something so complicated. I've always been careful with money and worked hard for every single thing I owned. For years, I had been saving in silence. I didn't tell my husband, my son, or even my closest friends. It wasn't because I didn't trust them, but because deep down, I wanted something that was just mine. Something untouched by anyone else's opinions or decisions. And after years of quietly putting money aside, I did it. I bought a house. A charming little place, not too far from the city but hidden enough that no one would stumble upon it. I told no one, not a soul. To everyone else, I was just the same old Josephine, still renting, still living modestly. But behind closed doors, I held the keys to a new life. I can still remember the first time I walked into that house. The faint smell of fresh paint. The empty rooms echoing with possibilities. It wasn't a mansion, but to me, it was freedom. A place that could one day become my sanctuary, or maybe even a safety net if life ever threw me into chaos. For months, I visited the house secretly. Sometimes I'd bring a notebook and sit in the bare living room, sketching plans for the future. Other times, I'd just stand in the kitchen, imagining the smell of fresh bread in the oven, laughter filling the halls. It was my secret paradise, and nobody knew. But secrets have a way of crawling out into the open. And mine, it was about to be exposed in the most gut-wrenching way. It all began the day Sonia, my daughter-in-law, stopped by for coffee. Sonia had always been charming on the surface. She knew how to smile at the right people, say the right things, and make everyone believe she was perfect. But I had seen glimpses of the other side of her. The way her eyes darted when she thought no one was watching, the way her voice sharpened when she spoke about money. That morning, she was unusually curious. She asked about my job, my savings, my plans. Innocent questions at first, but layered with something else, something sharper. I answered vaguely, pretending not to notice. Then she leaned closer, lowering her voice as though sharing a secret of her own. You know, Josephine, families should always be open with each other. Especially when it comes to assets. The word hit me like a dart. Assets. Why that word? I smiled politely, brushing it off, but inside I felt my heart tighten. She knew something. But what? I didn't say a word. But I started noticing little things, Sonia asking my son strange questions, casually dropping hints about future investments, and even suggesting that I might want to settle down somewhere more practical. That night, as I sat alone in my secret house, I couldn't shake the feeling. Had she found out? Or was it just my paranoia? Days passed, and then came the conversation that made my blood run cold. I overheard Sonia on the phone, her voice hushed but filled with excitement. Don't worry, she said. We'll make sure the property is in our name. My family could really use it. She won't even resist, she'll think it's for the best. My heart slammed against my chest. Property? In their name? She wasn't just guessing, she knew. Somehow, some way, she had discovered my secret. And worse, she was plotting to take it. That night, I barely slept. I kept imagining her smug smile, her family moving into the walls I had dreamed about filling with my own future. The betrayal wasn't just in the plan, it was in the ease with which she spoke about it, as though I was nothing more than an obstacle in her way. I sat at my kitchen table until the early hours, the house key pressed into my palm. My mind spun in circles. Should I confront her? Should I tell my son? Should I sell the house before she made her move? But deep down, I knew one thing: Sonia had underestimated me. She thought I was quiet, easy to push aside. But she was about to learn that I was not a woman who could be erased. That night, I made a decision that would turn everything upside down. And as I locked the door to my secret house one last time before dawn, I whispered to myself, if Sonia wants a game, she's about to get one she can't win. The morning after that sleepless night felt different. The air seemed heavier, as if the world itself knew something was about to shift. I made myself a cup of tea, but my hands trembled as I held it. Every thought in my head led back to Sonia and the conversation I overheard. I knew one thing for certain: she wasn't going to stop on her own. If she was already making plans with her family, that meant they had their eyes on my house like vultures circling prey. And if I didn't act quickly, my secret, the very thing I had protected for years, could slip right through my fingers. When my son came down for breakfast, he seemed distracted. Sonia had been keeping him busy with endless wedding details, and he barely looked up from his phone. I wanted to scream, "Do you know what she's plotting? Do you know what she's capable of?" But instead, I asked gently, "How are things going with Sonia's family?" He smiled faintly, still scrolling. "Busy. You know how it is. They've got a lot of ideas. Big dreams." Dreams. That word stung. Whose dreams? Mine, or theirs? I stayed quiet, but inside, I was already forming a plan. I wasn't going to confront Sonia just yet. That would only tip her off and make her move faster. No. I needed to stay one step ahead. That afternoon, I drove out to the house. Unlocking the front door, I stepped inside and let the silence wash over me. My secret refuge. My walls. My floors. My dream. For a moment, I pressed my hand against the cool plaster and made a vow: no one is taking this from me. I grabbed my notebook and started writing down ideas. What could I do to protect the house? I considered transferring the property under a trust, or even temporarily signing it over to someone I trusted completely. But then another thought crept in: what if I played along? What if I let Sonia believe she had me cornered, only to pull the rug out from under her at the very last moment? That idea made me smile for the first time in days. Later that evening, Sonia came by again. She had that polished smile plastered across her face, the kind that always seemed just a little too rehearsed. "Josephine," she said sweetly, "I've been thinking, you deserve to be surrounded by family. Wouldn't it be nice if we all lived closer? Maybe even together?" I raised my eyebrows, pretending to be surprised. "Together?" She nodded eagerly. "Yes. I mean, your son and I will need a bigger place eventually. And it would be so lovely if you were nearby. We could make it a family home. Everyone would benefit." Her eyes gleamed with something sharp. She thought she was being subtle, but I could see it. Every word was bait, and she expected me to bite. I sipped my tea calmly, forcing a smile. "That does sound interesting. Let me think about it." The satisfaction in her eyes was unmistakable. She thought she was winning. But that night, as I locked my door and sat in the dark, I felt the fire inside me burn brighter. Sonia had just confirmed her intentions without even realizing it. And if she wanted to play games, then I was going to make sure she lost, badly. The following week, I put the first part of my plan into motion. I met quietly with a lawyer, explaining everything. I didn't give names, but I made it clear: I wanted the property protected under my name, airtight, so that no one, not even family, could touch it without my consent. The lawyer nodded knowingly, and within days, the papers were finalized. Now the house wasn't just mine in spirit, it was mine on paper, locked down tight. But I didn't stop there. The more I thought about Sonia's smug face, the more I realized that simply protecting the house wasn't enough. She had to see the truth. She had to know that I wasn't some weak woman she could manipulate. So, I began setting the stage. I invited Sonia and my son over one evening, casually mentioning that I had a little surprise to show them soon. Her eyes lit up instantly. She thought it was the house. "Is it something big?" she asked, trying to sound casual. I smiled. "Oh yes. Very big." That night, after they left, I stood in the empty hallway of my secret house and let the plan settle into place. Sonia wanted my property? Fine. She could come see it. But what she didn't know was that the moment she set foot inside, she was walking into a trap, one that would expose her greed for everyone to see. As the days passed, I noticed Sonia growing bolder. She dropped more hints, spoke more openly about the future, and even suggested that her family might visit soon. "You'll love them," she said. "They're very interested in real estate." Real estate. Of course they were. I played along, smiling and nodding, while inside I was already picturing the look on her face when her plan came crashing down. But then something unexpected happened. One evening, I caught my son alone while Sonia was out of the room. He looked at me, his face unusually serious. "Mom," he said softly, "Sonia's been asking a lot of questions about your finances. I just want to make sure you're okay. Is there something going on?" For a second, my heart squeezed. He wasn't blind after all. He had noticed. I placed a hand on his arm. "Don't worry about me, sweetheart. I've got everything under control." He studied me for a moment, then nodded slowly. But I could see it in his eyes. He wasn't entirely convinced. And that's when I realized something even more dangerous. Sonia's plan wasn't just about me. If she succeeded, she would drag my son down with her. She wasn't just threatening my house, she was threatening my family. That night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I knew there was no turning back. I had to go through with it. Sonia thought she was clever, but she was about to discover that I was 3 steps ahead. The trap was ready. The stage was set. And soon, she would walk right into it. The day finally came. I invited Sonia and my son over under the pretense of showing the big surprise I'd mentioned. I could feel my pulse quicken, but this time it wasn't fear, it was excitement. I had planned every detail, every word, every look. Sonia thought she was walking into a secret she could exploit, but in reality, she was walking into the truth laid bare. When they arrived, Sonia's eyes immediately scanned the house, greed barely hidden behind her smile. She stepped across the threshold like a queen inspecting her new domain, unaware that every inch of this place had been fortified under my control. I led them through the living room, keeping my voice light, almost playful. "I've been working on something special here," I said. "I wanted you both to see it before anyone else." Sonia's excitement was palpable. She practically floated from room to room, inspecting cabinets and closets, making subtle remarks about how perfect the space was for a family like ours. I let her talk, nodding politely, all the while keeping my mind sharp, calculating. And then I said it, the line that would change everything. "You know," I began casually, "before anyone gets any ideas, I made sure this house is completely protected. All the papers are finalized. It's under my name only, and any attempt to transfer ownership without my consent would be legally impossible." Her smile faltered slightly, but she tried to hide it. "Oh, of course," she said, forcing cheer. "I didn't mean anything by it." I smiled sweetly, tilting my head. "Oh, I know you didn't think I'd notice. But I always notice, Sonia. I notice when people underestimate me. I notice when people try to take what isn't theirs. Her composure began to crack. I could see the panic creeping into her eyes, the same eyes that had tried so hard to hide their greed. My son, standing beside her, shifted uncomfortably. I glanced at him, giving him a reassuring nod. He understood now, he could see her true colors. I walked to the window, looking out at the small garden I'd spent months planning. This house, my sanctuary, isn't just bricks and walls. It's years of hard work, patience, and trust in myself. And it's not for taking. My voice was steady, calm, but carried the weight of someone who would not back down. Sonia swallowed, her smile gone. She tried to laugh lightly, attempting to mask her frustration, but it was futile. The truth had cornered her. And now, everyone could see it. For the first time, she wasn't in control. I watched as the carefully constructed facade she had worn for years began to crumble. I didn't realize, she stammered, but I didn't give her the satisfaction of a reply. Instead, I continued, let this be a lesson, some secrets are kept for a reason. And some people are better off knowing they underestimated someone. My son finally spoke, his voice quiet but firm. Mom, I think it's clear now. You've always been smarter than you've let on. I reached out, squeezing his hand. And I always will be. That's why I protected this house. Not to hide from people I love, but to protect what's rightfully mine, and to protect you too. Sonia looked between us, her face a mix of disbelief and anger. She wanted to lash out, to make excuses, to twist the narrative, but the truth was undeniable. There was no way around it. The house was mine, the plans were mine, and my patience had won. She finally turned, muttering something about needing to leave, and stormed out. My son followed her for a moment, then returned, shaking his head. She won't be back, he said softly. I smiled, relief washing over me. Not just because the house was safe, but because my son had seen the real person behind the charming mask his wife had worn for so long. He had seen the truth, and now he knew where our loyalties should lie. Alone in my house, I finally let myself breathe. The tension that had weighed on me for weeks melted away. This was my victory, not just over Sonia's greed, but over the fear that had kept me silent for so long. I had protected what mattered most, and I had done it with dignity and patience. As I stood by the window, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I whispered to myself, some secrets are treasures, and some battles are won before anyone even knows the war began. And in that moment, I knew, I had won. Not because I had confronted her with anger or force, but because I had been clever, careful, and patient. I had stayed true to myself, and that was a power no one could take away. The house, my secret, my sanctuary, it was mine. And more importantly, I had proved something invaluable. Never underestimate someone who has spent years building not just wealth, but wisdom. And from that day forward, whenever I walked through the rooms of my little house, I felt not just freedom, but triumph. Because some victories are quiet, some are unseen, but the satisfaction, the peace of knowing you've outsmarted the storm, is worth more than anything money can buy. And that, my friends, is exactly what happened when someone thought they could take what wasn't theirs. They discovered, too late, that I had already won.